All right, let's begin this broadcast with big breaking news coming in. A lot of panic, concern about energy sources in the country. And now information coming in from government sources that there's no reason to panic. There's no immediate likelihood of a hike in petrol and diesel prices. In some cities and some towns in the country, we've been seeing people hoarding fuel, panic buying. No need for any of that. As government sources have said, there is no chance of an immediate hike in petrol and diesel prices. They've also confirmed that there's no consideration as of now to cut excise duty on petrol and diesel. They are again reiterating that the government is comfortable with current fuel reserves and that India had timely pivoted to alternate supply sources when the crisis began. So there's no concern over fuel availability in the country. There's not going to be any concern of the government running out at this point. And so there's no question also of petrol and diesel prices being hiked. Big question mark, however, and the bigger concern, many would argue, is over LNG and LPG. But I'll bring in Chetan Bhutani of Business Today on this broadcast for more details. Chetan, take us through the government's communication, clearly an attempt to kind of soothe and put to rest all of the concerns and worries right now.
Well, absolutely. Government has been very clear right from day one. In fact, Nirmala Sitharaman in her statement to the parliament today mentioned that India has been buying prices from the past 1 year at very low rates. And so it has been cushioning the OMCs and the retailers at its end as well. So there's no point to worry. Our sources in the government have confirmed to us that there's no immediate price hike or any worries or the plan. Is there a plan to hike prices at the retail fuel stations? If you and me have to go and buy, there's nothing as a consumer that we have to worry about. Also, the government is also planning to cushion oil marketing companies against the negative margins that they might have to face by providing high crude price, lower prices at higher rates to at retail pumps. But yes, the government is already preparing a plan, and there is nothing to worry for fuel stations and retail owners at this point of time. Government sources also mentioned that India made the pivot at the right time when the Strait of Hormuz was closed. India pivoted immediately to other sources of oil, and they mentioned to us earlier as well that government is actually very energy efficient, and they would be pivoting for its best interest to any of the country that offers steady fuel supply. So currently, as of now, sources mentioning to Business Today that there's nothing to worry, and the government is not looking at a retail fuel price hike as of now. But yes, situations are volatile. The times are of course volatile. One has to keep an eye out. The government, Ministry of Petroleum, Natural Gas, Finance Ministry are constantly in touch and are watching global crude oil prices and of course having stakeholder consultations as well.
All right, Chetan, thanks for that update. Important to highlight the word immediate here. The situation is very volatile. You never know what's going to happen in the next 1 week, which is why the government has said for now, there's no question of a hike in petrol and diesel prices. Let's hope it stays that way. To begin this broadcast by also putting the focus on the consequence of war. Very often we forget that as a result of this kind of a war, what's the number one consequence? It's human casualty, the humanitarian cost of this kind of a war. Sure, we may talk about modern warfare, drone warfare, precision strikes, but ultimately, there are lives being lost. And we want to bring the focus back to that. What's been the casualty count of this war that's gone on for 10 days and counting? Let's put out those numbers on your screens. And I want to highlight particularly the number that's mentioned at the very top of the country of Iran, which has seen the maximum number of casualties of 1,230. Mind you, all of the numbers we put out on our screens right now, these are all the numbers that the respective countries have released. Iran is yet to update their daily toll. So unfortunately, that number will only go up. The other number I want to bring to your focus, if Iran has seen 1,230 deaths and counting, unfortunately, Lebanon has also seen a large number of casualties with 397 deaths. Remember, in Lebanon, we've seen non-stop strikes over the weekend, particularly with Israel targeting Hezbollah targets, and clearly civilians, once again, a casualty of this conflict. So Lebanon seeing 397 being killed, 798 injured. In Israel, 11 people have died, 100 plus injured as a result, of course, of Iranian counter-strikes. Qatar has seen a huge amount of bombardment of missiles and drones by Iran. As a result, Qatar has seen 16 being injured. Bahrain has 1 killed and 4 injured. One number that I'd like to bring to your focus is that of the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, cities that would have never seen anything like they have in the last 10 days. Unfortunately, the number of people who've died there is 4. 4 people have died, and that's been confirmed by the UAE government. The reason we're putting out those kind of numbers on our screens right now is to again remember and reiterate that ultimately the biggest casualty of war is civilians, is innocent lives being lost as the course of this war, and as it continues to progress and escalate, unfortunately, that number will go up. All right, let's bring the focus now to what's happening in Iran, where the regime is sending out a message that all is well, that we will continue and there's no question of a regime collapse. And in the latest development, perhaps the biggest in the last 10 days of the conflict, is that there is a new supreme leader. After Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was assassinated, his son has now taken over the charge. It was largely expected. A number of reports did suggest this would happen, but now it's finalized, formalized. The announcement has been made that Mojtaba Khamenei is the new supreme leader of Iran. It's for the first time ever that you're seeing essentially the son of a top leader, of a supreme commander taking over. Usually you don't see it in Iran, which is why we've termed it as sunrise in Iran finally. Mojtaba Khamenei was someone who was in the shadows, but deemed to be very clearly the successor of Khamenei. So in keeping with that, the announcement was made amid, of course, a whole lot of support, people in large numbers. And this is very contrary to what you hear about in Iran, which is that there isn't much support for the regime. The pictures, however, are complete contrast to that, because what we're seeing is images right now of huge number of people coming together when that announcement was made. So Mojtaba Khamenei is the new supreme leader of Iran, taking over from Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. I'll just put the focus right now on what exactly the family tree of this family looks like. Who is in fact in this family? Why has Mojtaba been chosen? He's not the only son. And I'll put the focus right now on those names as well. Let's put that out right now, and that's the names there on your screens. You have Mojtaba Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader who has the final say right now in most state matters. Then you've got several others who are also at this point very powerful. Pezeshkian, the president, the head of government of Iran, but ultimately someone who also reports to Mojtaba Khamenei. So he's all powerful in that sense. He is someone who at this point clearly has full control of Iran, and all eyes will be on him to see what really he does next. As we, in fact, break down for you exactly what the path to power is in Iran, and you can see that on your screens, let's also tell you about the other big aspect of what's happened right now. The fact that Mojtaba Khamenei is someone who's also had a history of serving in the military. Now, what is his political stand? We don't really know. But Mojtaba's early youth coincided with one of the most turbulent periods that Iran has seen. At just 17 years old, he actually served as a soldier in a war, not really in one of your frontline posts, so his life wasn't in danger. But it's important to highlight that something like this had also happened. That's footage on your screens of Mojtaba there, serving, in fact, in a battalion in Tehran. That experience, and this is what the Khamenei family has maintained, that particular experience in the military is what shaped his outlook of what's happening in Iran, and the fact that he was even more power towards the Islamic Revolution. But that's why there's a lot of talk right now that with this particular move of Mojtaba Khamenei, someone who served, you will see, in fact, a lot more power being given to the Revolutionary Guards. But here's why Mojtaba Khamenei is bad news for America. He is someone who's a hardliner with close ties to the Iran army, which is what I was referring to as well, because he served in the army. There's a lot of speculation that now with him taking over, there will be someone who gives a free hand to the Iranian army. And so that's bad news for America, who, remember, wanted to have a big say on exactly who would be the ultimate authority, who would be the supreme leader in Iran. Someone like Mojtaba is perhaps the worst possible news for America. He's also backed by Hezbollah, by Houthis, by the Basij. We're going to put out the right graphics there. We apologize for that. We're going to change that up because we'll get to the school killings in just a bit. Let's focus first on Mojtaba Khamenei and what really has happened. How has he shaped his entire career to become the supreme leader of Iran right now? And as he, in fact, wants to continue, and we've got out those details for you right now, he's backed by the Hezbollah, by the Houthis, by the Basij, wants to pursue Iran's nuclear ambition as well. So there's no backing off from that, which means it's extremely bad news for America. Ultimately, their goal was to thwart the nuclear operations of Iran. He also seeks revenge for his father's death, not just his father's death, but also for the fact that in those US-Israeli strikes, mind you, his wife was eliminated, his daughter was killed, his mother was killed. So he's lost his father, mother, wife and daughter as a result of America and Israel's strikes. That's why he has a hardline anti-US stance. He's also rejected US diplomacy. So under Mojtaba, it looks highly unlikely that there will be any sort of dialogue with America. Let's get you all the details about Mojtaba Khamenei. Why has he been chosen at 56? He's now the new supreme leader of Iran.
It is a new dawn for Iran amid its darkest chapter even in history. After Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in strikes by Israel and United States, the second son of Ali Khamenei, Mojtaba Khamenei, has succeeded him. After Mojtaba was named the Supreme Leader of Iran, Iran's military and political leaders have pledged allegiance to him. A strong emotional sentiment is echoing for Mojtaba after he lost his father, mother, wife and daughter in the strikes carried out by Israel and United States when Ali Khamenei was targeted by thousands of pounds of explosives while negotiating peace deal with US alongside top officials. Mojtaba is a hardline cleric with deep ties to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. During the Iran-Iraq war in late 80s, he volunteered on the front lines and served as a member of the Mujahid battalion. The experience shaped his outlook and deepened his commitment to the ideals of Islamic revolution. As Mojtaba steps into his father's shoes, he faces the wrath of arch-rivals Israel and the United States. Donald Trump called the choice unacceptable and hinted that it won't last.
We're in a very strong position now, and their leadership is just rapidly going. Everybody that seems to want to be a leader, they end up dead.
Israel, without mincing words, stated that it will not allow any other supreme leader in Iran and any successor appointed by the Islamic nation or involved in appointment would be a clear target for elimination. Israel followed through its threat by carrying out a strike in central Tehran and killed Abul Qasim Babayan, identified as the coming head of the military office of Iran's supreme leader. The move has created global tension, with China opposing any military action against Mojtaba, calling it an internal matter of Iran. With the supreme leader holding ultimate authority over Iran's military, judiciary and foreign policy, Mojtaba Khamenei's leadership will significantly shape the Islamic nation's future and its all-out war with the US. Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's break down for you the big headlines of what really this succession means for Iran. Mojtaba Khamenei will now be the supreme leader for life. Why do we say that? Because in Iran's rules, you see very clearly that whoever's named as the supreme leader, till he is assassinated, he will remain the supreme leader. The second is also that there is first hereditary transfer of Iran's supreme leadership. I'm going to take this across to Pranay Upadhyay of India Today Global for more details. Pranay, explain to us why and how we see Iran fully set up, that even if there is an assassination, there's a clear succession plan, there's a leadership ring that immediately takes over.
Akshita, many people might be having this question in their minds that, despite sustaining so many airstrikes, despite having decapitation of their top leadership, why Iran is still sustaining? Iran girta kyun nahi hai? So to answer to this question lies in the power structure of Iran. And let me take you to this power structure, because this is the complex power structure Iran has developed in last 47 years of this Islamic regime. So at the top of this thing, supreme leader is actually supreme in every power structure, this power pyramid, where the people, people, the common voters, are at the very bottom of it. And this is the steep power hierarchy of Iran, where the elected president, Masoud Pezeshkian, he is the elected president. But even the election and the selection of the presidential candidate is governed by this Guardian Council, and which is the handpicked council of 12-member this Guardian Council. And Supreme Leader controls almost everything. This assembly of experts which has selected the Supreme Leader. But in turn, these 88-member the expert committee is also chosen by the people. But in fact, the candidacy of for these 88-member expert committee is also decided by the Supreme Leader. And after this, you also see the power structure of the military as well. So on three tangents, if you see the power structure, which is the political power structure, governed and controlled by the Supreme Leader. Besides that, you have the security or the military power structure there as well. The Supreme Leader sits at the top of this pyramid, because IRGC, which is different from the professional army or professional military of Iran, is also controlled by the same Supreme Leader. Here you see the Supreme National Security Council, which is currently, whose Secretary General is Ali Larijani. And President is also part of it, but he has a limited authority. Besides that, the Ministry of Defense is there. But here you see, Artish, this is the professional military of Iran, like Air Force, Navy, Army. But this is superseded by the power structure of IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and whose strength is around 150 lakh, the soldiers are there, and they are the power structure. So they hold the real power, and they are only accountable to the Supreme Leader. So this is yet another. The power, the security structure of Iran is largely deep entrenched. And also, this is governed by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and they also have a unique force, which is a voluntary force called Basij, which is a religious as well as the paramilitary force of Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and therefore they are also very deep entrenched, and they have their people even at the rural level, at the village level. And that's why this is an ideological structure, and such ideological structures cannot be decapitated by merely striking or decapitating the top leadership, because the second tier will come, the third tier will come. And the next slide will show you that what exactly, from where are they drawing their power? Because, political power and the military power ultimately has to have economic power. So see, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's business empire is also deep entrenched, and as per analysts, around 60% of Iranian economy is currently, Iranian Revolutionary Guard is having hold of it. So they have construction firm, they have this construction firm called Khatm al-Anbiya. This has around 20,000 workers, and they take major infrastructure contracts. Besides that, they are in the other industries as well, be it the Iran's Mehr Economic Institution. So this has the financial institutions, like the biggest economic institution, the banking hub, the non-banking financial corporation. They are also being held by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. So they control this power structure of economy as well. Besides that, they also have the Iranian telecommunication company. That's why Iran can immediately shut down all the communications whenever they want and whichever way they want. And that's why they have 50% stake and bought with the government privatization scheme, and who bought Iranian Revolutionary Guards. And besides that, they also have this group, which is the largest lead and zinc mining. So they control economic resources, they control mining, they control the financial system, and also see this as well. Even the automobile sector, 45% stake in the manufacturing of the Mazda brand cars in Iran are also governed, held by the IRGC. And besides that, the Iran electronic industry, they control the electronic industry as well. So if you see the power structure, they control economy, they control military, security, and they also hold the political structure, the political power of Iran. And that's why mere decapitation, mere airstrike are not yielding the desired result for United States and Israel. And I think this is a main reason for the frustration, growing frustration among Israel and United States, that why, despite killing Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, they are not being able to change the regime in Iran. Back to you, Akshita.
Thanks very much, Pranay, for breaking that down for us. There's a reason that the person who is at the helm is referred to as the supreme leader in Iran, and that's what Pranay has broken down for you as well. But remember that Mojtaba Khamenei is now supreme leader for life. which is why already Israel has said that he is target number one for them. Till he's assassinated, he is at the helm of affairs. He cannot be replaced. And also, he's the first hereditary transfer of Iran's supreme leadership. What that means is that it's considered un-Islamic for the son of a supreme leader to take over. In this case, it's the first time that it's ever happened. That's because past spiritual leaders regarded dynastic power as un-Islamic. All those rules of how, in fact, power transition happens has completely changed. The other big question mark is over his political views. Because he's been in the shadows for so long, he's not been someone who's been in the spotlight and has never really come out and spoken about his political views. But clearly will be a hardliner, someone who's very close to the Iran Revolutionary Guards as well. Succession signals that regime can still very much function. The messaging here is very important. The Iran government is saying, look, all of these strikes hasn't affected us. We're still very much in power. We're still very much as powerful as we were. Let's cut across to breaking news coming in. And the theatre of war is expanding in West Asia. Turkey, which was hit in fact last week, says now another missile has been intercepted. Turkey in a statement has confirmed that a ballistic missile was launched from Iran and that it entered Turkish airspace, but it was neutralized by NATO air and missile defense assets that have been deployed in the eastern Mediterranean. Turkey has confirmed that there have been no casualties or injuries. But Turkey also not taking kindly to what's happening, saying, and I quote, "We emphasize that all necessary measures will be taken decisively and without hesitation against any threat directed at our country's territory and airspace." This is the second missile that's been intercepted by Turkey's air defense. And this is extremely important because last week, when there was a report that suggested that Iran had targeted Turkey, Iran had denied the same, saying we did not target Turkey. That is the big update that's coming in. You can see the theatre of war expanding, which means more and more countries are being dragged into this conflict. Inevitable, really, as we're seeing day 10 and counting of this war. With several airspaces being closed off, limited flight operations, we're seeing Indian carriers also struggling. The latest update is that a London-Mumbai flight, an IndiGo flight, has been diverted to Egypt and has been stranded in Cairo for 10 plus hours. The last 12 hours now, this flight has been waiting in Cairo for a directive on what to do next. Inevitably, the challenge that most carriers are facing is that in East Asia, in the Middle East, you're seeing airspaces being closed off. Very often the directive comes in the last moment that these flights cannot fly over certain countries. In this particular case, this London flight headed back to Mumbai was diverted via Egypt and has been stuck in Cairo for over 12 hours. Passengers are right now unsure about what's going to happen next. Of course, a lot of it is dependent on really how things play out in the next few hours and whether the requisite permission is given for the flight to actually fly back to Mumbai. We're going to continue tracking that very closely and getting you those updates of, in fact, the flight operations that are underway. Some carriers conducting now limited flight ops over the Middle East. But that's